Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a feeling that I think pretty much all of us know entirely too well. It's that creeping, heavy, modern guilt we feel about wasting time. I mean, we live in this hyper-optimized culture now, right? Every single hour that isn't spent working, networking, or, aggressively self-improving just feels like a failure of discipline. It feels like a big smudge on the ledger of an otherwise productive life. But what if the science says we have this completely backward? What if the time you spend resting and entertaining yourself isn't actually a waste at all, but literally a fundamental biological requirement for your brain?
Now, you might be surprised to hear that this anxiety about leisure isn't actually a new thing. Take the 17th century philosopher Blaise Pascal. He famously suggested that all of human unhappiness stems from our inability to just sit quietly in a room alone. To Pascal, and honestly to a lot of hardcore productivity gurus today, entertainment is viewed as this desperate diversion. It's seen as a flight from the existential weight of the human condition. Like, we just use it to numb our minds because we simply can't handle reality.
Okay, let's really dive into this, because this sets up the central mystery of our explainer today. Is entertainment really just a frivolous distraction from the real work of life, or is it something way deeper, like a true biological necessity? Can a human being actually survive, and more importantly, thrive, without it? Well, the answers hidden in cognitive science and evolutionary biology are absolutely going to change how you view your downtime forever.
Section 1. Surviving versus truly thriving. Let's shift our paradigm a bit.
To really get this, we have to contrast our modern productivity anxiety with how ancient cultures actually viewed leisure time. Take the ancient Greek concept of skole. Believe it or not, this is the root of our modern word school, but to the Greeks, it actually meant leisure. But here's the catch. They didn't view leisure as some lazy break from the important things in life. For them, it was the exact opposite. Leisure was the ultimate goal of human flourishing. They believed we do the hard work specifically so we can gain the freedom to engage in joy, play, and deep contemplation. They saw leisure as the very space where we become fully human.
So, think of it this way. Entertainment is a vitamin, not a dessert. It is so incredibly tempting to categorize movies or video games or music as this sugary reward that you're only allowed to consume after you finish the vegetables of your professional obligations. But cognitive science shows us that entertainment is a vital secondary need. Listen, if you skip a vitamin, you won't drop dead immediately, right? Just like you won't perish today if you don't watch a movie. But over the long term, chronic deprivation of joy and play leads to systematic psychological decay.
If we look at our psychological hierarchy, it's basically a ladder. At the base, we have food and shelter, which are obviously required for physical survival. Then we have work and purpose, which drive our productivity and meaning. We have rest and sleep for pure biological recovery. And right alongside those, we have entertainment. Its primary role is to provide mental rest and emotional variety. No, it is not survival critical in the exact same way oxygen is, but it is deeply inextricably tied to our cognitive health. Without that mental rest and variety, your whole system begins to break under the weight of constant effort.
Moving on to Section 2. The science of cognitive rest. Let's talk about mental fatigue.
So how does the human brain biologically recharge itself when it's pushed to the limit? Well, researchers rely on this fascinating psychological framework called attention restoration theory, or ART for short. Basically, much of our day is spent using what scientists call directed attention. Whether you are solving some insanely complex problem at work, studying for a huge exam, or honestly just navigating a super busy urban environment, you are burning through a finite cognitive resource. You simply cannot maintain peak deep work indefinitely. When this directed attention gets exhausted, our executive functions become incredibly brittle. We get irritable, we start making really poor decisions, and our stress hormones, like cortisol, just absolutely spike.
Here is what happens next. Once that directed attention is exhausted, the brain desperately needs to shift to a state of what's called soft fascination. Now, this isn't your brain just completely shutting down, it's more like shifting gears or processing modes. When you lose yourself in a truly great story, or listen to your favorite album, or watch a sports game, you shift from that highly effortful focus to an expansive, effortless state. This soft fascination is exactly what allows your brain's executive centers to finally take a breather, consolidate what you've learned, and recover. Entertainment isn't laziness, guys. It is the literal biological mechanism for resetting your attention.
Section 3. Evolution, Play, and Social Glue. Let's look at the innate drive to play.
Let's zoom out from the individual brain for a second to the entire human species and explore why mammals are universally driven to play. From an evolutionary standpoint, entertainment is basically a developmental laboratory. Narratives and storytelling, they allow us to run social simulations. We step into perspectives completely different from our own, which is absolutely crucial for building empathy and compassion. Games, whether you're playing on a board or running around on a physical field, are evolved ways to practice life skills. They sharpen our strategic reflexes in a low-stakes environment. Fun fact here, even young rats who are deprived of rough-and-tumble play actually grow up with severe social deficits. Engaging with novel, fun experiences maintains our neural plasticity long into adulthood.
But it's not just about your individual mind. It's about the collective. Entertainment is literally the ultimate social glue. Throughout human history, shared entertainment, think about the campfire story, a communal dance, or even thousands of people cheering together at a modern stadium, has acted as a massive social synchronizer. It aligns the emotions of a group, which in turn fosters the deep trust and cooperation necessary for human survival. I mean, every single documented human culture, dating all the way back to bone flutes from 40,000 years ago, has utilized music, games, or storytelling. It is a universal requirement for building a community.
Section 4. The entertainment debt trap. Because we need to realize that not all leisure is equal.
Which brings us to a really crucial question. If entertainment is so incredibly good for us, biologically and socially, why does a 3-hour TikTok doom scroll leave us feeling completely drained, apathetic, and honestly just exhausted? Well, the answer is that not all leisure is created equal. On one side, we have high-quality recreation. This is active, it's intentional, and it leads to a flow state. Think about reading a good book, having a deep conversation, playing a complex strategy game, or creating some art. This kind of activity truly replenishes your mental energy. On the flip side, we have low-quality diversion. This is passive, algorithmic scrolling fueled by cheap, easy dopamine. It simulates rest, sure, but it doesn't actually restore you.
So, the really important point here is this concept of entertainment debt. When you consume endless amounts of junk content, you're getting high dopamine stimulation that entirely hijacks your brain's reward system. But, and this is key, it utterly fails to provide the true soft fascination your brain actually needs to reset. So you spend the hours, but you get absolutely zero restorative benefits in return. You are effectively putting your brain into debt, leaving yourself way more mentally depleted than when you started.
Section 5. The cost of the monk mode myth. Let's talk about the real dangers of deprivation.
Realizing this debt often drives people to the other extreme, right? To this toxic modern trend of monk mode. That's the idea that you should ruthlessly eliminate all leisure, stimulation, and entertainment just to achieve peak productivity. But the science shows us that starving the human brain of stimulation creates a severe biological backlash. If you try to eliminate all entertainment, you risk anhedonia. That is the literal inability to feel pleasure, which is a major hallmark of depression. You invite chronic burnout, severe apathy, and you almost always end up suffering from rebound overconsumption, meaning you eventually crash and binge on junk content anyway. And in the absolute most extreme cases, like studies done on solitary confinement, we see that an environment totally devoid of entertainment and social play leads to rapid cognitive deterioration, hallucinations, and even paranoia. The brain is wired for engagement. If you starve it, it breaks.
Finally, Section 6, finding your sustainable rhythm. How do we actually fix our downtime?
So, what do we actually do about this? We need to abandon our guilt and find a sustainable rhythm that genuinely restores us. To start, just remember that human beings thrive when we alternate focused effort with recovery. So balance your hard work with true flow states. Whenever possible, choose active play over passive play. Working on a puzzle or engaging in a deep hobby is going to stimulate your brain so much better than mindless scrolling. Also, try your best to make your experiences social to build those crucial human bonds. And ultimately, you have to start treating your leisure not as some guilty pleasure, but as absolutely vital maintenance for the incredibly complex machinery of your mind.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to think about this question, and maybe use it to rethink your own screen time and daily habits. Which of your daily distractions is actually a vital act of restoration, and which ones are just keeping you in endless entertainment debt? Remember, the time you spend lost in a really great book, an awesome game, or a deep conversation with a friend, that isn't wasted time. In fact, it might just be the most important thing you do for your brain all day. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer. Catch you next time.